Fear the Victor. How about some coffee? All right, this is for Fear the Victor's contest. And I've got two stories to tell, and the second one's about malt liquor. But the first story, here's the thing. Here's why these stories stuck out in my mind. Is I don't really know a whole lot about any one particular thing. And typically in a conversation, especially in a social situation, I either speak really lightly about, just kind of keep my hand in the conversation, but not really say a whole lot, or I say just what I think about this, or what I know about it, or I think I know, and then I'm kind of done. I don't often hold forth. I don't often talk for a long period of time, which is odd. My one option for that, my one outlet for that is YouTube. So let me tell you my stories. I was in a truck stop and I was heading out to the Delta, and I needed a book. I realized at the last minute I didn't have anything to read, and so I stopped at a truck stop to grab a book. So it was a Western, by the way, and there was a bunch of other truckers standing around in a big circle, and they were complaining, just going on about their job. And just that week, I'd actually gone and applied at a warehouse unloading trucks, and in the lobby was a huge amount of magazines and books and articles on the trucking industry. And I was there for a long time, and I read them all. And one of the guys said something about like that they need X amount of people to drive their 30 trucks, and they're down to 20 people, and the turnover has been like no one makes it a month, and more people are thinking about quitting. And I turned to them and I'm like, did you know that industry wide the turnover is something like I can't remember now. This conversation was a while ago, but I had the percentage of how the amount of people to drive trucks was slowly decreasing, and the amount of the need for trucks was increasing. So trucks are being put out there when they couldn't even put people in the trucks that they have. So the figure was over 100%, which is weird. So I started talking about the problems of the trucking industry, and people were kind of responding to me a little bit, and I said, and they're actually, rather than trying to fix the problems in the trucking industry, they're trying to change the immigration laws so that trucking could be seen as a job that could get a work permit, so people from other countries could come here and drive trucks. And the only way you could get that law passed is to prove that you can't get people locally to do that job. So typically that might be something like computer programming, or a doctor, or something like that. But it almost seemed like, rather than fix the problems in the trucking industry, they were actually trying to exacerbate the problems so they could then have people from Central and South America come up and drive trucks, and maybe even lower their overhead by paying less. So and working people in just nightmarish conditions. And so I was just all full with I was just vehement. I was so angry about it all. And I've never driven a truck. And I looked around at everybody, and everyone was hanging on my every word. And if someone was talking about an aspect, and I went, he would stop talking and turn to me, and I'm like, yes, that's exactly right. And I'd start talking about how brand new roads and freeways are being built based on traffic patterns of 20 years ago. So a brand new road is already 2 decades out of date. And people were just like, wow, this guy knows what he's talking about. It was a really good time. So then, actually, and then more recently, I was over at the local grocery store, and there was a young guy behind the counter, and I was buying some Mickeys, and he said something about Mickeys, and I started talking about malt liquor. And at first, like, and then some guy like on the other side of the counter that was doing some stocking, he kind of chimed in about malt liquor, um, and I answered him, and you know how like I've got not just, it was the same thing with the truckers, like the information wasn't coming from me or just partially from me, but information was coming from my resources, like reading the books and stuff like that. But so when they started talking about malt liquor, I had, hundreds of malt liquor drinkers that I've heard talk about malt liquor or talk about drinking or talk about, that topic. And a lot of times when they were saying something, I would say, well, some would say that, a 40 ounce should be drank in less than 10 minutes. That way it's all the same temperature, it doesn't get stirred around too much. And because the guy was talking about like the part at the bottom, he pours that out. And I'm like, well, some call that the swill and say that's the best bit. And so if you get down to it right away, not only will it taste just as good as the bit at the top, but you maximize your buzz. And as I said that, this guy, like the people in the store, like walked over, and we ended up like sitting at the counter talking together, and talking about like one of the guys threw a malt liquor party, and of course it was just nothing but malt liquor there, um, I talked about tapping the bottle and twisting the cap, and all these different things, and like if it was something that that one of you guys in the malt liquor drinking community had said, I would always say, well, some say that, so they were kind of like, they kind of felt like they were like, I don't know, like they obviously were responding to me as if this guy knows what he's talking about, but there was also that weird kind of thing like I was quoting people about malt liquor. mm. Yeah, so I guess like in the last 10 years I've actually talked about something that seemed like I knew what I was talking about. All right, Fear the Victor. Thanks for having a contest. Oh, by the way, I just thought of you. It was my time of year for planning out my donations, so I took care of that a couple of days ago. Made me feel really good. All right, buddy. I'll see you in the tubes.